Change the conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. Those are Neville's words. And why does Neville go to great lengths to throw the word automatic into that quote? Because for me, would assume that he chose the words that he wrote, being fully aware of what they meant. But I think that's where we need to start. Because especially in our culture of expediency, where we want everything so quick and overnight, and we almost create so much urgency behind our desires, we've somehow confused the definition of automatic to mean right this second. Look up the word, look up the definition. It literally means to self-regulate. Now that's a very interesting word to put in the middle of a quote that has to do with changing your concept of yourself. And to assume that changing your concept of yourself will give you more self-autonomy or self-rule or freedom or liberty. And that's really what he's saying. So what does that mean, though, if you don't change your self-concept? Let's say that you stay in the state of being poor or being unloved or being rejected or dealing with PTSD or anger, whatever it is that you are currently in that you do not want to be in. Well, that means that you are not self-regulating. That means you've only changed the concept of yourself, and the automatic change will not happen because you have essentially given your power over to a second cause, to something outside of you. So if you want to change your world automatically, meaning get that self-regulation power back, you have to first change your self-concept. So for me, where I differ in a lot of my work with Neville and using it in my coaching is that I don't see what he's writing as just some cool quote to put on a meme or some other idea where we just simply say, oh, that's a cool psychological insight. Okay, great. I'm going to go about my day. But actually, almost everything that he writes seems to be a tool, a strategy, a tip, a way in which we can take it and make it our own and actually make it work for us. So it isn't just a cool little sentence that we read on his page and then move on. It's how can I turn this into a strategy that makes sense for me? So again, back to his quote, if you change your self-concept, you will automatically change the world in which you live. So again, what that means is you change your self-concept, you get your autonomy back, or you get your sense of control back, your sense of safety, your sense of self-love, your sense of fill in the blank. And you've actually got what you wanted back, which is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Part of every wish fulfilled is this feeling of being free. Even Neville speaks about that. And so it's embracing the automaticity or the self-regulation or the self-liberation that we all deserve. And so realizing that to change your self-concept is to actually take back your freedom. So again, because if you don't, then again, you're still in the state of poverty rather than being and changing your self-concept to being in the state of wealth. This brings me to my second point, which is that you must first feel like you can get your freedom back. So that automatically, that word in his quote is extremely powerful to understand in turning this into a technique for you. Because you have to understand that there's freedom first, that there is freedom beyond whatever it is that you're experiencing, whatever pain you're experiencing, whatever loss you're experiencing, whatever is causing you anger, frustration, hopelessness. There is something that is beyond that. But to get there, you have to fully accept that the step one is to change your concept. When you change the concept of yourself, that means the ideas that you've accepted as true, but we're going to get into that in 1 second. Then that has a residual or even a natural effect to bring in the next part, which is automatically changing the world in which you live. So that means then you now get to use the control and freedom in the imagination to do whatever it is that you want. But if you keep entering into the imagination and you don't self-regulate, then you don't have the automatic change. then you keep entering into the scene as the person who has nothing, or the person who's still in poverty, or the person who is still lonely, then you will only keep manifesting just that. So you have to first change your self-concept. So this is very, very important, because to do so means you have to accept your current self-concept. You have to say, this is where I am at. And there's nothing wrong with that, because what that'll do is that'll train you to then see every other self-concept as something that is changeable, that can be changed, that can lead to automatic changing of the world in which you experience life. And you have to do this from a state of deserving. So when you enter into these scenes, you don't enter into them as the current person. You do the work of emotionally getting into the state of the wish fulfilled. You generate that emotion, and you generate it so much that you almost feel like you're going to pop almost. And so you want to generate it and generate it and generate it. And you just want to sit in the imagination. Don't try to create. Don't try to do anything. Don't try to effort anything. And when you get that, then enter into the scene as if you're already that person who has everything you've ever dreamed of. Walk in confidently. And that's where you begin to feel the freedom of now moving from your current concept to the new concept. And so that also leads us to the idea of what does Neville mean by concept? Because if you look up the word concept, it's, generically really defined as just an idea. But as you know, he also says that concepts are ideas that we, this is my favorite phrase of his, consent to. That means that anything that we have agreed to, whether we know it or not, whether it's a memory when we were 7, or whether it's something that happened to us last week, whatever it is, it's something that we've agreed to. Now, you might think, oh, well, yeah, but I didn't agree to childhood abuse, or I didn't agree to poverty when I was 7. No, you may have not. But your environment around you that impressed your subconscious has made such an impact upon you, an emotional impact upon you, that you've agreed upon it, that you've agreed to it. So what that means is you must now do the investigative work, and I always call this like the inner adventure, of figuring out where those concepts, those ideas come from. Because you have to change those concepts, right? Change your concept. So you have to change it. That means you've accepted concepts that are limiting to you, that don't serve you anymore. And so, but a concept also, and this is very important while I end this, is that a concept is a series of concepts. Why do I say that? Because a lot of people get really frustrated when I say things like this, because I don't think we ever go deep enough into manifestation. And I think this is a very frustrating thing for most people, because they just want urgently to change things. But the reality is that what might happen, and I've seen and heard this happen several times, is that if you don't do, and I don't like the word work, and I don't like the word effort, but if you don't invest in trying to discover where the birth of these concepts come from, or why there's more than one concept that you need to actually deconstruct, then you're going to eventually manifest the opposite of what you may have even just manifested now. And that's why people actually experience manifesting somebody in their life, and then one day later, 6 months later, 10 years down the road, that person leaves. It's because we haven't done the deep work. And so as deep calls to deep, we have to realize that part of this process is to accept the fact that we have this inner adventure. We have these opportunities, these skills to actually go in and say, okay, there's a concept here, but I guarantee you there's probably 3 or 4 other concepts that are propping this one idea up. Okay, so you must be doing the actual labor, the inner mental labor of trying to find these so that you can actually recreate and revise and change and alter the patterns of thinking, and do that work that needs to happen so that you can become the best version of yourself that you've ever seen in your life. And that's what I want for you. So hopefully this was helpful. Again, there's other concepts that I could have spent more time on. We're going to actually even deep dive into concept itself and how you can actually get more practical into that. But I wanted this to be like a part 1 and get you really into the mental space of realizing that there is a fun way to do this, and there is an investigative way to do this, and to also see that everything that you read in Neville's work is a tool. It's something that you can turn into a behavior, or a strategy or a method. And so have fun with this because you deserve it.